What will you need it for? Just going back.
Hey, good afternoon. Just give it maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. See some folks still piling in, so we'll give folks opportunity to join us. So we'll get started in a few. think traffic has slowed down, but Rick, if you can, could you let folks in as we get through going through the agenda? If I miss anybody,
Absolutely.
thanks, man. Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to the GA call of September 19th. Folks that's new to the call, I'm TJ Boyer. I'm on the with this classic side of things here with the RD&A. And this call here is just to promote coordination between the GAEs and the RD&A staff here. So just with a little bit of information sharing. Without further ado, slide down to the agenda. So I want to start off with any emerging issues with the group. If there are any issues that came about, I know fire season is still cranking away, being at PL5, but just any emerging issues with this applications or any thing folks want to share with the group. Open up the floor to everyone. Okay. If not, feel free, whether it's in the round robin towards the end of the call, or if you had a thought, please share. But for just the general reminders, some awareness with the group. If you need to look at today's meeting notes or past notes, they're located on the GAE resource page of the RD&A site. I try my best to get it posted as quickly as possible once this call is done. And the recording, the call recording is done downloading, and we get it uploaded to YouTube. So there's the link. It's been provided, and yeah, feel free to jump in and look at things. Let's see. The training environment for NextGen is not yet readily available for anyone to access, but for now, users can request an account through the Wildland Fire Portal, through FAMA for NextGen with this UAT for that user acceptance testing environment. NextGen team members, they see those requests and they are completed and approved for those folks to get in. So I had some inquiries lately on folks wanting to get access or who could get access in there, but it's open to everyone. So also the help site for with this UAT environment. Here's the link, is ready available for folks to take a look. Some tidbits on getting in access and whatnot for the application. And then finally, hey, training updates. Any training dates that you guys have, please send it to myself, Morgan, or Rick, so we get it added to the GAE calendar, GAE training calendar. And that link is located also on the GAE resource page of the RD&A site. Okay. So since our last call, we had one new addition to the GAE group, and that is Carol Ewell. She's for both North and South Ops. And just want to welcome her to the group. And if there are any GAE changes, again, let myself, Rick, or Morgan know, and we can make those adjustments and get those folks their roles within with this. All right, for here at RD&A for staffing, Bree has started this month with her new detail. She's detailing with FIMI as the director of Fire Modeling Institute. And this field behind our current detailing or acting program manager, which is Greg Dillon. So she has started her detail, and want to give a big congratulations to her. Uh, Also, Jackie, yeah, Jackie, who has been phenomenal and awesome here at RD&A, working with the data team. She will be starting her new position with the USGS. Just want to thank her for a job well done and wish her well on her new position. Her last day with us is set for the end of the month. Then finally, Dan Mendar, he's back. He's helping us again to get us through the remaining of the fire season. So he'll be back at the end of September, and we have him on board for just a couple of weeks for on-call support for with this. So I want to thank him again for helping us. All right. Um, so for classic updates, not too much going on because we're heading towards the sunsetting days. So we're still here supporting during this busy fire season. And we also continuing doing the mandatory updates and patchwork for the application. We completed some patch where our dev team completed some patchwork earlier this week, which was maybe like a 10-minute outage. So it didn't have, any impacts to too much impacts to users this week. But we're continuing to keep the lights on. Earlier this month, we deployed a new release, which was 8.3.1.4, and that addressed the ongoing issue that has been happening during this fire season. Some of you all put in feedbacks or contacted us on your LCPs getting hung up in the application. So dev team uh, put a fix to it for those frequent hangups when generating mainly generate landscape with multiple masks to that. So we did some monitoring this past weekend and this week, and so far so good. Not seeing any crazy issues with that. So we have those release notes ready and available on the with this homepage, and as well as the what's new section of the with this homepage. So you can take a look at that or pass release notes if interested on what's been going on. And then since the application seems to be stable and some of the issues we're already aware of those, we kind of shift our plans and our focuses on back to those sunsetting and transition activities to get the application ready to transition to next gen. They've been doing their work with converting some files to archiving. We had some meetings with the data warehouse team on storage space, and we have some upcoming testing that uh, our dev teams are going to do with some of that storage space for classics. So that work is so far it's on track, going well. And finally, just want to share the vision on what it will look like around maybe between January and March of next year of that timeline. It's making Classic to go into that read-only mode, meaning Classic would stop bringing the incidents from Irwin, which eliminating the ability to create new incidents within within Classic itself. So maybe grading out that new incident button in Classic or wherever it takes to get the application into just that read-only mode there. Also create new decisions, uploading shades, some of that new, putting in that new information, trying to keep that on lock. So when next gen is live again, Earl will be turned on and they'll be receiving those new incidents, and we'll start the work of mainly porting over anything that's in progress at that time. But that's the point where there'll be no more publishing decisions, starting decisions, and everything like that in Classic. There's a comp plan being developed to help inform users and facilitate this kind of transition. So we'll continue to communicate with everyone and inform users of any necessary work that may need to be completed, such as maybe if there's things that you need to wrap up on the incident, like if you have something that you know is not going to be called out before then, but you know that that incident's more or less wrapped up. You can download your stuff or whatever you need to get things in order before we get to that transition date. So we'll continue those comms there with everyone. And I think that's about all. Just want to pause here. Any questions or any thoughts for Classic?
Nothing in the chat so far.
Cool. Thank you, man. Okay. So for data, Amanda, did you join on?
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, did you want to bless us with any data updates?
Yeah, I
Or-
think the only thing what you got on the agenda is good, TJ. So we're working on processing the last FMU submission for WFDIS Classic in the system right now. We expect it to be in the system a little potentially early this year. So probably most likely next week.
Sweet.
And just a reminder to folks that this is Susan. Once the data is in WFDIS Classic, then we take a cut of everything for spatial fire planning, and that will be the last cut before we make the transition. So I would imagine if you're working on any management requirements, language changes, things like that, that are outside of your FMU submissions, you might want to think about getting those in here at the end of this month, because I'll probably be making that final cut in October, early October. That's all.
Cool. Thanks, Susan. Patrick, you got something?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I was going to ask is it possible in the spring to be able to submit new updated FMU strategic shapes?
So in the spring, we're hoping the new application will be launched and you will have an editing applications for your spatial fire planning. So you'll be able to check it in, check it out, and edit it in Arc Pro for shapes. And the plan is to have, an experience builder application for working on language and approval and things like that.
Okay, no, that's great to hear, because Sierra Sequoia, they do have updated plans, and I don't think those have actually been updated in the Classic. So that's one thing I was hoping to get done this winter.
Yeah, and I think when we talked to the NPS fire planners, a lot of parks were going to hold off and put their information into the new system rather than trying to put it in Classic and let it ETL over. So you might be one of those parks.
Got it.
But we're close.
Yes.
We're close. We're really close.
Nice. Thank you.
Cool. Yep. Anyone else for questions?
Yeah, I just following up on what Patrick said. This is Eamon here, Pacific West Region Fire Planner. So you're saying the end of September is the cutoff for any new management requirements or editing language to management requirements in WFDIS, correct?
Yes, this will be the last ETL we do, and I hope to process that in early October. So, yes.
So maybe one thing, Eamon,
because users have access to edit management requirements without, they're not SOs or FMU shapes. So just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, to put a little nuance on what Susan said there, users can still create management requirements and upload them and change their language and everything in Classic after the end of September, but that data is not going to get copied over to the new system. So they may have to do it again in the spatial fire planning service. But if you've got a need for something in between going into the fall here, you can still do that in Classic.
No, that's what I wanted to know. So yeah, thanks for that clarification. I don't think Park Service, at least for our region, will be putting anything in after end of September, it sounds like. Thanks.
Yeah, copy. Thanks, Eamon.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. So for Irwin, the Irwin team, they're doing their preparations for the release of version 10 for Irwin. Today they did some deployment to their lower testing environments. The upcoming plan is for them to continue adding on some functionality of version 10 the next couple of weeks. They anticipate the releasing version 10 for it to go live in production to the production environment around March 5th. So it's set to March 5th. I put in a link for those release notes for that build that they're doing to the lower environments, some of those details, what that encompass. And then the business plan, if anyone's interested, it's still in draft status, but the business plan with those dates on releases and information, you can find at the this link that I provided for that. So that's the latest and greatest that's going on for Irwin. And I forgot what date it was. I know it's in January. The Irwin testing event that's happening. So we'll be part of that when that comes to fruition in January. All right. If there's no further questions, we could slide over to next gen for some updates or demos.
Awesome. Thanks, TJ. I will open the floor up for Wes or Rick to see if you guys have any updates before we jump into the demo.
Update I could give to the group is we are still working to configure training. Hopefully it comes out in the near future. And as soon as it does, we will let everybody know when training is available. In terms of app development, we are prioritizing getting our FS Pro absolutely completed so that users can get prepared for S495 for the training next year. And then we'll circle back to completing the decision approval process and publishing a decision PDF. And that'll kind of there's a few other things in the list there, but those are the major features to get kind of wrapped up for our 1.0 release, hopefully for next spring. And then once we get 1.0 completed, we'll start our 1.x work, which includes getting the other 3 fire behavior models in the system, MTT, Farsight, and FlyMap. Susan?
Yeah, I think I need to clarify. I probably muddied the waters a little bit. So you guys submit FMUs and SOs. That final submission will process as an ETL at the end of October. But I will make one more poll of any changes to management requirements and other unit shapes before we make the cutover and pull those over. But I will not pull another FMU SO cut because this is the final one that you guys have submitted. Does that make sense? Does that clarify it a little bit? I hope so.
That's a good clarification. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, ETL, extract, transform, and load. So we'll extract from Classic the FMOs, the SOs one more time early October with the management requirements and other unit shapes. We will make a final pull of that before the cut over to the new application.
Thanks for that clarification, Susan. Anything from you, Rick? Or should we jump in?
Nope, you have the floor, Sarah.
Okay. Hi, friends. Sarah Senoik with the Next Gen team. We're going to start on another demo. I wanted to start you back here on the Wildland Fire Application Portal, FAMAUth, just as a reminder of what that looks like and what some of the limitations are or experiences around that are. And so FAMAUth has a 330-day inactivity security enforcement that if a user does not enter any application or application instance within FAMAUth, their access to that application is removed. So some of you GAEs that I sideloaded last year may have no longer access to the UAT environment. So UAT environment is the user acceptance testing environment. It's the only one that we have open for users, but we are letting anybody who wants in. And here's where you access it. Looks like this. It's under the training application. So if I didn't have it highlighted here, it would be down under this training applications. And it definitely says UAT. So something that we just found out today that's going to be important for geographic area editors is that the next release of FAMAUth/FAMAUth admin, we're going to have the ability for GAEs to opt in to emails when users have access or role requests for NextGen. And then we are discussing further down whether or not we'd be able to apply the geographic area. So you would only then get the emails for the geographic area, the requests and the application and access and role requests. Like it is in Classic, right? You only get the ones for the area that you are responsible for. Well, currently FAMAUth doesn't have that, but it's something that we are working towards to make that more clean for you. So here we are. WFDIS UAT. Another thing I wanted to bring up about UAT that's been a great development as of this week is we considered it an unstable environment because it was getting pushes all the time. Our development pushes were clearing out user data, like if you had done some analyses or things like that, all of that would get wiped periodically. And so Monday was the last time that we did that. Our developers have found a way around that. So you should be able to continue to work on an incident as a shadow incident in NextGen without losing that data. So it's super great. So on to the demo. Today we're going to talk about the planning area and some of the things that we can do with it. So just as a refresher, I know last time we searched for an incident using the search panel. So I'll go ahead and do that. Found my incident, I can zoom to it and I can start a decision. When we start a decision in NextGen, the system automatically draws a planning area for you. Excuse me. That planning area is 7 miles by 7 miles. I measured it. I thought it was kilometers, but it's not. And so that's based off the initial point of origin as reported to Irwin. So you can see that if we go to our fire area, this should, it already did. So it's already created a spatial inventory for us as well. So that's all automatic based on that initial planning area. Let's say you don't love that planning area. We'll look at this. Well, so first, this is your initial spatial inventory. So it's querying all these layers. You can download it as a CSV. You can look through, navigate through all the pages using these controls at the bottom. And you can expand this out to look at this and see which layers we're querying for the spatial inventory. You can look at which layers failed and which layers have no data returned. So that's all automatic the first time somebody starts a decision. And that information will always be in there. I would like to close this. There. So there we go. So as we initiate the decision, we'll say, you'll always have and only have 2 planning areas. The initial, which is that 7 by 7 mile, 31,000-ish acres, 3130, something like that. And a current. And the current is whichever is the most current planning area that you have. So we have the option for planning area to be able to draw, upload planning areas. So I don't have anything uploaded for this area, but you could do that using this upload tool. Just use zip files. So that's great. And it's something that we didn't have in NextGen or in Classic. And I know I had many times where I was drawing the planning area and I had to like try and move over and I messed it all up. And so having that ability to upload it from an actual application or a GIS application would be super helpful. So we can do that and using this upload shapefile. So you would say, and you can upload all of these different types of shapes. I think we'll have another demo on how working with shapefiles. But these are the shapes that you can upload. So that we're going to draw a new planning area. Actually, before I get to that, you'll notice that there's some pink lines here on this fire. And that is another thing that's automated in the system. Let's look at the layer list. I'm going to put my spatial inventory over on the side. So under the incident parent, we have these strategic assessment shapes and strategic course of action shapes. And the system is pulling and clipping to your project or planning area these files. So that you can see here where it's clipped the pods, the unit shapes, the subunit shapes. And here we've got the spatial fire planning language. And so that's all clipped to that initial planning area. So I'm going to close that back up. And so we can like click on it and see. And I like to put this guy over here and flip through it so we can see the planning area, strategic assessment shapes, spatial fire planning, and you can see the associated text that goes with those. So those are all clipped down. But let's, as we're going to do, let's draw a new planning area. So I'm going to just close all this down a little bit. And I'm going to draw it. And I could bring up the pods layer itself. I'll just do that for fun. There are, if your planning area was the shape of a single pod, you could copy and paste that or copy that shape. And you wouldn't have to draw it, but I think. Oops. Watch me click around. So this is your homework, is to go through this layer list and find out where everything is. So I've got pods activated and you can see the lines. And so I'm just going to draw a new shape that's generally for the planning area that's generally associated with some pod lines. So you can draw a polygon, a rectangle, or a circle. As I said, I'm just going to be kind of general about it. But you will have the ability to be able to do this in Arc Pro and pull it over, or whichever application you use as a zip file. Bloop. And you see here, you don't have the ability to change that feature name. It's always going to be current, and I'm going to save it. And you say, yes, I would really like to do that. So I'm going to open back up my spatial inventory. And I'm going to run a new spatial inventory on my current. We're going to generate it. And so as that generates, I know we've had questions about, oh my gosh, this initial planning area is still here and I don't want to see it anymore. You can turn that off in the layer list. It's got its own symbology and you just turn it off. You'll also notice that the old area where we had those spatial fire planning units were clipped to that area. You have to generate a new spatial inventory to be able to reclip those layers. But here you can see that we've done that. And it's clipped away. So if we click on our current planning area, we can see all the changes in the spatial inventory itself. And then something that we didn't look at, oopsie daisy, are these firefighter safety graphics. So it's taking, the system is taking the information, let me close this, from that spatial inventory and creating these really awesome graphs of the planning area. And they're available for suppression difficulty index, potential control location, snag hazard, and the estimated ground evac time. We'll probably back the severe weather placeholder out as we go to production until we find an appropriate piece of data for that. So we've got these awesome graphs that just auto-populate. You can, using the little hamburger over here, you can download these as images to put into other documentation or put into briefing packets. And so these will change as, if I drew a new planning area right now, as soon as I hit that generate SI button, well, as soon as this spatial inventory came back, these graphs would repopulate with whichever was the most current. So it's all automated for you. That is what I wanted to cover with this. Wes, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about in terms of these graphs or the spatial inventory?
No, I think you covered the gist of it. We'll see if there's questions.
Okay, let's open it up for questions. Go ahead. I don't.
It's
see.
Diane.
Yes, Diane.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. So I was cruising around in the UAT and I saw a fire that I tried to look at the layer lists and the decision content, and I couldn't. I was forbidden to view it, and so that made me wonder how do we how is that stuff hidden if you're not a cooperator in the decision, or can people just see everything?
So
Are you an analyst, Diane, in NextGen?
no, she's a GAE. So
Oh, she should have explicit access.
yes, well, yes, you're an implicit. What I think, Diane, maybe is if, let's see, if I'm gonna, oops.
I was looking at the park fire, and so I know some folks are in there.
Oh, that one is open.
And I guess it just made me curious about what the permissions are going to look like.
So permissions for geographic area editors, you are all implicit editors on an incident. So once an incident has been started, you should have the ability to both view and edit decision content without being added explicitly as a collaborator.
Nice.
But I do wonder, and also, so the other benefit is geographic area editors as implicit collaborators can add more collaborators. So
I had
go ahead.
I just had a quick question to that. So in the classic, a lot of times I would have to switch the region I was in. Is that the same in NextGen?
Nope.
Okay, cool.
Yes, you're all national editors as well as implicit collaborators.
Yeah, all of the roles in NextGen are hierarchical. So viewer can only view the GAE list and their profile. Editors can see all the incidents on the incident screen, start a new incident, but they can't get into an existing one unless they're added to as a collaborator. Fire behavior specialist can access any incident, even open decisions, and obviously run analyses for those decisions, and then GAEs can do everything.
Right. And so like another thing, so it's easier almost to talk about what roles can't do. And so editors, for instance, editors are not analysts or GAEs. They're just editors. They have the lowest roles. They can't see analyses until those analyses are completed for use in decision or for strategic use. Just like in Classic, they can't see it until you say they can see it. So back to your question, Diane, I don't know why you couldn't see it because you should be able to. That's interesting, unless it was before it got started again.
Yeah, maybe. But thanks for answering my other questions about how these are going to work.
If you have any more issues, Diane, let one of us know, and we can work on troubleshooting that and make sure there's nothing wrong with the system.
Any other questions? So my answer to that, if it wasn't the park fire, was that if the incident hadn't been, if the decision hadn't been started, you can't see anything either. Like none of this data is or the fire area and collaborators aren't populated if it hasn't started. So there's nothing to see. Like you can't get to these steppers.
Yeah, I learned that myself too, that if no decision has been started, there's a limit on what you can see in the layer list and the functionality. Yeah,
that's true.
And that's kind of an important difference between Classic and Next Gen. In Classic, you could look at the details for any incident, whether or not someone had claimed ownership of it. So as a GAE, you could go in and see all of the incidents in your GA. For Next Gen, you see a thing on the map here, but for anything that hasn't had a decision started, that really doesn't exist in the WFDIS system here. We're showing the points from Irwin, but until somebody starts a decision, we don't actually sort of set up the folder for it in Next Gen. And that's why a lot of that stuff is unavailable. But that also means that since we only show like the Irwin points from the last 6 months, if nobody starts the folder within that time, there's really no way to go back and look at old incidents that nobody ever touched. So good thing to note and keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. And you can't do analysis without starting a decision then, right?
That's
Correct.
right. Yeah, it looks so if you go into an incident that a decision hasn't been started, this is the only option you get is to actually start the decision. So the fire area collaborators, you don't get the stepper, none of the things.
Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, that first fire you popped into, Goat, already had a decision associated with it. So when you started driving around in there, I thought that I would see a current planning area. Did that not get brought over, or maybe I just missed it in the? Is that what I'm seeing right there? Because
so nope, there's no link between Classic WFDIS and WFDIS Next Gen
at all. Okay, all right, cool.
So, yep.
None of the current stuff's going to come over, and that's totally fine. I understand that.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
To kind of get at that a little bit though, as we get close to that transition date that we were talking about earlier, TJ went through kind of 3 bullet points that we kind of set Classic to read only, that Next Gen would start pulling in incidents, and that we transfer stuff over. Those first 2 items basically would be on the same day. We'd pick one day on the calendar and say, okay, this is the day that everything shifts over. Leading up to that, for a few weeks, we'll be watching existing and expected fire activity, and keeping a real close pulse on it, and be in contact with areas that have any ongoing incidents, so that when we get to that cut over date, Our staff will help move over all of the content for anything that needs to be moved from Classic over to Next Gen, and then kind of be there either in person or virtual, still to be determined, to kind of help hold hands and get everybody straightened out then. So not planning on leaving anybody to the wolves on this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And you may have seen a demo that Sam or Wes has put on where they've done a side by side. So taking a decision that's in Classic currently and showing where all the pieces and parts would go in Next Gen. And so if you'd seen one of those, you may have expected that information to be in here, but it was all sacrificed to the last wipe. So we're trying to repopulate all that data as we go forward, just for our testing purposes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? If there's no more questions, I'm going to assign homework for the next call next month. Okay. So I think we'll talk about shapes and layer file or the layer list next time. And so there's a lot of cool new stuff in the layer list that everybody's been working diligently to find really good sources of data and pull it in. So I encourage you to go ahead and take a look at what's available in the layer list and play around. And with that, that's all I've got. Thanks.
Sweet. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Next Gen team. Yeah, we'll get into the round robin. So, folks that's new to the call with the round robin, basically, folks from their respective GATs share their coordination opportunities, some of the anticipated fire activity and trainings that's coming up on, and any feedbacks. But without further ado, we could start off with Alaska.
I don't know if anybody's on from Alaska other than me, but it's really pretty wet, and I think it might start snowing in the northern part of the state soon. I think we got a team mobilizing to Oregon, and so we are more focused on supporting the lower 48 right now. End report.
Sweet. Okay. No one else from Alaska. Let's go to Eastern area.
Hey, TJ, this is Joe Allier with the Forest Service. Currently, we've got one fire up in the BWC that Alan Hepworth's working on some SOPL and some decision support up there through WFDIS. We are seeing some drying in the Great Lakes, and then, of course, along the East Coast and the southern tier. We've got several forests that have thrown in some severity requests. So right now, nationally, we're an exporter, but we're looking at starting to import back into the region for fall fire season. Alan Hepworth and myself have been talking about what do we need to do to start to get the region wrapped around with this Next Gen. So we'll be reaching out a little bit on some different ideas on putting some trainings together later this winter with spring fire season starting in March in the southern tier. And to report unless there's any questions.
Cool. Hey, thanks. Next we go to Great Basin.
Yeah, this is Jeremy. We still have the Great Basin Max stood up, and with it the decision support center, I guess, with that. Looking at starting to phase out some of that as we get into October. I'm not sure quite how long that's going to go or how much they're going to need us, but it's been pretty successful this year. And they're still doing a little bit of support through through the wrist with a couple of L10s still attached to that, and it's working pretty well. Other than that, looks like things are cooling off a bit, and then the fire load has been reducing, but we still have quite a few on our priority list. So we're just going to hang around until those start to decrease and teams go away. End of report for me.
Okay, anyone else for Great Basin? All right, let's head over to North Ops. Or both ops, North and South Ops.
I'll jump on for Park Service. So somewhat of a cooling trend in North Ops this week, but going hot and dry again over the weekend into early next week. Had some lightning recently, so we're still in the thick of it. South Ops, as far as Park Service and WFDS, still have the coffee pot fire. That's going to be transitioning back to Sequoia National Park. I want to say sometime this weekend, going to Type 3, so we'll be updating that WFDS decision. But generally pretty busy on Park Service units this year. I think some good lessons learned between ISAP and WFDS and management action points and trying to be consistent there. And that's all I got for Park Service.
And then this is I'll jump on. I wasn't sure if Kevin was on. I just took a look for North Ops. I don't think Kristen Allison's on for South Ops. I know we have Carol and Dan O'Connor on. Carol Yule and Dan O'Connor on the call too. But for the Forest Service side, it's still kind of quieting down a little bit. We've had some weather coming in, so kind of getting to those fall conditions. But with the potential for it to dry out, we're still potentially looking at some new starts. We had that lightning that came through. But there is in the future more moisture in Southern California, so I imagine that's going to help with the 3 big fires we got going on down there: the bridge, airport, and the line fire. Otherwise, it's kind of transitioning into more of that, potentially looking at what we're going to be doing more for prescribed burning in the next couple months. I think everyone's still kind of out. A lot of presence still in Region 6. A lot of folks from down here up there. Otherwise, for other pieces, still trying to get some workshops together for next gen. Talking about that, and then also for next spring, looking at that. Dan and Carol, if you have anything else to add.
Hey, I did have a question. I'm new to the GAE world and have been getting some requests for folks looking for fire behavior specialist roles within WFDS, and wondering if there's any kind of policy or protocols for granting those. As I understood, those you got those keys once you went through S495, fairly protected. But just wondering if there's any input or thoughts on that. Folks that are a lot of local government types that are helping with ISAP and StratOps and things. So I'm just curious about that.
We can talk about it offline, Dan. Is what we discussed in the past during the previous calls was that it's regionally kind of conditioned, but the threshold is that S495 to get them into fire management specialist role.
Copy.
But there's exceptions in there. I mean, we always, especially for research folks that are pulling data.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Dan Morgan's dropping that fire behavioral document in the chat. You can look at. Okay, if nothing else for North or South Ops, Wendy representative out of Alaska, she put her update in the chat for anyone to review. But I also will have it added to the notes and get it posted up online for folks to review as well. But let's go with Northern Rockies.
Good afternoon. Jonathan Olson here for the Forest Service, part of the Northern Rockies. We've had a fair bit of precipitation over most of the geographic area over the last week and a half, which has moderated conditions significantly. We still have a number of large fires out on the landscape though, so keeping an eye on those. We still are operating our decision support through the WRIST structure, similar to the Great Basin, and that has worked really quite well for the season. We'll keep that going with just minimal staffing until we get a more definite season ending event. As far as training and other things going on, we're starting to schedule WFDS next gen training sessions, looking at starting mid-January for the first of those, and then continuing through the winter, early spring. And that's the end of the report for the Forest Service part of Northern Rockies.
Okay, anyone else for Northern Rockies? If not, let's go with Northwest.
Hey y'all, let's see. So just for the Forest Service P&W, generally speaking, we've got 12 teams out. We're still at PL5, but it's pretty much a slow taper to our fire season at this point. A lot of our existing fires have picked up some precip in the last week. Don't really see a definitive season-ending event on the horizon, but all things workload-wise, whether it's analytics or creating decisions, there's a slow taper going on there. So that's pretty much all good news. And I guess on the next gen training front, been kicking around a lot of emails with Sam and Wes. So we're going to actually start in on all of that in October, and then really focus in with more in-person trainings and support on a unit by unit basis beginning in January. So yeah, end of report unless there's questions.
All right. Anyone else from Northwest? Okay. If not, let's go with Rocky Mountain.
Good afternoon, everyone. For BLM, and I know Amy had to jump off for another commitment, so I can cover Forest Service a little bit too. We just have a scattering of incidents across the landscape, nothing major, nothing new, and no WFDS issues. We're supposed to be getting some more moisture in starting this weekend, which should alleviate the activity we're even having now. That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else for Rocky Mountain? I think for the BIA, Valley's had it to take another call, but they have their updates within the chat. All right, let's go with Southwest.
Yes.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Go ahead, Rance.
Go ahead. Rance Marquez for BLM Arizona. We're pretty much done in the Southwest, except for, with the exception of the South west part of the state. They're still in restrictions, getting some IA, but nothing's going very far. The day length and cooler temperatures have helped us out a lot for our never-ending fire season. Kind of odd. So other than that, That's it for BLM. I will have an announcement. BLM New Mexico did hire a fire planner, Robert Zaveda, and probably need to add him to the list of folks that need to be involved here.
EB with the Forest Service. So as Rance mentioned, it's pretty quiet here southwest. We do have a little bit of activity in the region with one CAM team managing a couple of fires over in Arizona, but primarily looking at starting prescribed fire implementation this next week. Yesterday, Wes gave the Southwest GA Decision Support Group a demo of NextGen, so just wanted to say thanks for him doing that. And we're also working with Wes on trying to lock down a couple of dates for NextGen training for the region here this winter. And to add on to what Rance just shared, so New Mexico BLM did hire their fire planner, and he goes by Zach, so Zach Saavedra, but I'll send over his contact info and a report.
Okay, I think we got them added. I think I had them on the BLM group as Robert Saavedra. I think we got him added, but I'll go back and check. Okay. And what's for Southwest? Okay, if not, I think David Quisenberry earlier for the call, he gave us his update in the chat. So I'll get that added as well to the notes. But before we close out, any more thoughts or concerns or anything folks want to bring up for the group? Okay, if not, our next call is scheduled for October 17th at 1300 Mountain. So again, thank you all for your time, and thank you for sharing information with everyone. And I'll get the notes and the recording uploaded once this meeting is over. But thanks again.
Thank you, TJ.
Thanks, TJ.
Appreciate it, TJ.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.